So, hello to those who joined us right on time. My name is Alex Comerford, and I am the Operations Officer here at the Institute of Sustainability Studies. And I'm delighted to welcome you all back to yet another webinar under the Sustainable Action Dialogue series, where we bring you leading experts who distill the jargon often associated with sustainability topics and hold focused discussions on content that can help your business and individuals realign commitment with action. Today, I am delighted to have you all present for an exclusive webinar on navigating the landscape of sustainability leadership, being delivered by the one and only Sarah Blake, founder of Earthology. Sarah has more than 25 years business experience in human resources, horticulture, and sustainability. After studying sustainability leadership at Cambridge University, Sarah founded Earthology to help employees and their companies on their sustainability journey, one step at a time. We're delighted to have her here today for today's webinar. But before I invite Sarah to deliver this lecture, I just wanted to inform all participants that the session is being recorded and the recording will be made available on the ISS website later today. Please use the comment section to share your thoughts and questions for Sarah to address towards the end. So without further ado, over to you, Sarah.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. Thanks for the intro there as well. That was brilliant. So welcome, everybody. This is my second lecture for the Institute of Sustainability Studies. So I am very excited to be here. We have another one planned for later in the year as well. So today we are looking at sustainability leadership, and it's a bit of a minefield, really, to be honest, in terms of sustainability generally, but what does that actually mean in terms of leading from the front? So what we're going to look at today is a few key points. So we're going to start by leading by example. I mean, any leader should do this, but it really is key when it comes to sustainability. So we'll take a deep dive into that. Then looking at equity. So equity, diversity, equity, inclusion is so important when it comes to sustainability, and that's a key trait that leaders need to have. Then you need to have a very strong inner compass, and we'll dive into this a little bit more in terms of what I mean for this, but it's also, we're going to touch on the inner development goals. You can probably see behind me, if you can see my camera, I actually have the UN Sustainable Development Goals up. The IDGs are the inner qualities that we need to achieve these outer goals. Then we're going to look at influence, and finally collaboration, all things that are essential for leaders, but particularly essential for sustainability leadership. So the most asked question about the climate crisis is actually, what can I do? So it's not like, what are the emissions of China? It's not what's the emissions of, my computer or whatever. It's what can I do? And I find this is what most people ask me all the time. It's like, oh, I know it's bad. I know I need to do something, but what can I do? Like, I can't do too many things. So really what we're talking about here is having those leaders that are those people that you can look up to and say, yes, I know that I need to do that. Or I know that they are providing me with a good example of what good sustainability behavior looks like. And so something I want to share with you today is from Project Drawdown. Now, we could talk about Project Drawdown's top 80 to 100 solutions that are going to draw down the most carbon from a business point of view. But I found this is much more interesting, because when you're talking on a one-to-one level and how people can lead by examples, this really does set it up. So you can see here from the infographic that these are the top 20 things that people, particularly based in the Western world, right? These are things that we can do about climate change on an individual basis that will eventually lead to systems change. And we're not going to get systems change without leaders actually stepping up. We can't always expect someone else is going to do it, because that's just not going to happen. Governments are waiting for a business to do it. Business are waiting for governments to do it. Someone saying, where's the stick? I'm not, CSRD is coming down the tracks, but like, I still need, like, what's the risk? Why would I do this? So here we look at, you can see like food and food waste, that's something like 12.4%. So these really do represent huge numbers. We're talking about gigatons here of carbon dioxide that could be reduced if we took these actions. So our waste, so thinking about circular economy, so you've got recycling, reduced plastic, In fact, Earth Day is coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and the theme this year is actually planet versus plastic, because we are obviously effectively wrapping our plastic in our earth in plastic, like cling film nearly. We're suffocating it. And what we really need to do is to turn off the tap when it comes to plastic. Then composting, recycled paper, all of these things are, seem, I think, so obvious in a maybe of a day-to-day basis, but they're the things that I think if people see those leaders taking the bus, carpooling, driving an electric car, using the Zoom more, those kind of things, maybe even an electric bicycle. I mean, crazy UK leader Boris Johnson, you'd always see him on his bike as he arrived into Parliament. And like him or loathe him, like a lot of people really looked up to that and thought, hey, wait a minute, if he can, like, if he's the leader of the country and he's coming in by bike, that's something I can do. Then obviously energy. So you're looking there at like, if on your street somebody gets solar panels, everyone goes, oh, keeping up with the Joneses, I'm going to get the solar panels. They look good. And the companies know this, so they tend to leaflet everybody on the street and say, we're doing next door. Are you in? And we'll make it cheaper for you if you do that. And then things like smart thermostats, low flow fixtures. So all things that you can do either in the office, in it'd be in showers, in communal areas, in canteens, or you can do at home. But these are all things that when you're looking to somebody to take leadership on something, if they're doing it themselves, you're more likely to feel that they understand your values, and then you're more likely to reciprocate and go, okay, that meets where I am, so that's what I'm going to do. The next thing is equity. Now, I think sometimes we think about sustainability leadership and we think about sustainability and we think about the environment. We don't always think about the social side. And, ESG doesn't have an S in it for no reason, right? We look at how equity really makes a difference. And this quote from Jane Goodall really summed it up for me. You can save forests and species by helping create better lives for people. So we see this in so many areas of conservation, that when the lives of the local people are better, they don't feel the need to go and hunt that species or eradicate it, or it's not, encroaching on their lives or their livelihoods or their livestock for that matter. So something that we need to do is be equitable and be just and be able to look at the gender pay gap, look at equity amongst the ranks of your employees, like who is thriving and why are they thriving? And can we make it a level playing field for everyone? And if you look to the UN SDGs as your North Star, right, they're not a stick, it's not CSRD, it's not the International Sustainability Standards Boards coming down the track. It's actually something that we want to strive for. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about equity. We want the world to be just an equal place, because in Project Drawdown's top 10 things to do about climate change that will draw down the most carbon, it's educating women, and educating women so that they can actually take these roles on, so that they can nurture Mother Nature, because it is indeed in our nature. So that's the second thing. And I think it's so important to really think about that when you're making decisions as a leader about where to go in your business. You need to look at planet and people so that you can actually maximize your business and get the profit. So I think we've talked about it there, but it's how we treat ourselves, how we treat others, and how we treat the planet. So treating others and how we treat the planet with respect is sort of like a foregone conclusion, isn't it? But the state of the environment accurately reflects the violence and injustice and disrespect and harm we do to other people of different cultures, beliefs, and skin color. We also know that the world's richest 26 people hold the same wealth as the poorest 50%. So it's something that we really do need to focus on, and that will help to bring more systems change. And just one thing there, the first line of that is how we treat ourselves. So many people don't actually give themselves the respect and the love that they need to be able to go out and thrive. So if you start looking inwardly at your inner compass, what are you saying to yourself? and how are you treating yourself? Is that how you'd want to be treated? Right? You need to think about it from the inside out effectively, so that shapes your decisions. And I was listening to somebody recently talk about their gut feeling, and how do you make decisions? Do you make decisions by making a list, or do you make decisions on your gut instinct? And I think so many of the senior leaders that do it well do exactly that. If we look at like Mary Robinson, Nelson Mandela, all those people who certainly meet my values in what I would think would be a really great leader, is they look at how they treat themselves in the first instance. Then we need to think about how, once we've moved to that inner world and looking at our needs and wants and are they being met, we need to think about how we're going to do that. So I love this quote by Margaret Mead, because it's like, if we all get together as a committed group, that in fact, that is the thing that has always changed the world. If you think about the suffragettes, if you think about Black Lives Matter movement, all of the things that moved the dial in history were when we all got together and decided that we wanted to make a difference. So it's not necessarily that one leader in isolation. That one leader needs that first follower, the people who are going to join in and say, yes, electric cars aren't perfect, but it's what we have at the moment. I'm going to go with that. It's the person who says, yes, I know that to get things without packaging in the Western world is maybe going to be a little bit going out of my way to the local zero waste shop or whatever, but I'm going to do that because that meets with my values and it leads by example. So to have effective systems change, we really need people change. And so we're going to have a little look now at the IDGs so that we can look inward and see what's guiding us and how we can make a difference. So these are the IDGs, the Inner Development Goals. And in 2015, the UN Sustainable Development Goals provided this comprehensive plan for a sustainable world by 2030, right? Here we are in 2024. And yeah, progress is not happening fast enough. And we urgently need to increase our collective abilities to face and work effectively with these very, very complex challenges. In sustainability, we often refer to these, huge behemoths of problems, like combating plastic, etc., as wicked problems, because they really are. They're so complex and require like really thinking about, okay, how are we going to turn off that plastic tap? What can we use instead? Where is the compostable alternative going to go? What are we going to do with that? There's a whole systems change that needs to go on. So on that basis, if we look at our inner compass and how we guide ourselves and how we make decisions as leaders, we have the IDGs, and they're a great North Star, I think, for how you want to look at your values and the values that we need to have to be able to create that change that we're all looking for. So the IDGs have 5 dimensions. There are 23 science-based skills and qualities that are going to help us to live purposeful, sustainable, and productive lives. I virtually went to the IDG conference last year in October, and I was absolutely blown away by the energy in the room and the thought processes that were going into, okay, how can we actually get people to change and to drive where we need to go? There were so many insightful moments, and yeah, anyway, I highly recommend it for anybody who is potentially interested, because I think that's where we really need to think about going. And in fact, for those people who are studying with the Institute of Sustainability Studies, there we go, we are actually going to be doing a follow-up masterclass, and I'm going to do a deep dive then into the inner development goals and how you can use them in your organization. So, but first up, Mother Teresa. Now, I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the water to create many ripples. So, to have effective systems change, we need people change. So, we really do need to be able to see and look ahead and say, okay, these are the things that we need to have within us to be able to make that change. So, these are the skills that I picked up on, particularly coming from the IDGs, but something that I see really good sustainability leaders do these things effectively. Now, there are lots of skills that we need, but these particularly, I think, are important. So we need to be able to influence. And that's the bit I feel that we need more training for people in sustainability. If you've come into sustainability like I have, I came into it in a kind of negotiating, face orientated role. So I'd already been in that kind of environment where I needed to talk to people and I needed to influence them and I needed to understand where they were coming from. And the first thing that's so important in that way of working is openness. So if we're not open and listening to what the other person is saying, either about how difficult it is for them to cycle to work or how difficult it is for them to put solar panels in the car park of their business or whatever it is, it's too expensive, it's this, and this person won't listen, and all these kind of things. We actually need to be open to that. We need to be like, okay, I hear your problems and let's see how we can work around them. And I'm open to all the ideas about how this could come about. And even if that's completely crazy, listen and be open to how that could come about, because that's so key. And then I think the second thing is communication. So communication is, like, without a doubt, one of the number one skills that sustainability people need to have. And if we're leading, we need to be able to communicate really well with anybody. You need to manage up, you need to manage down, you need to manage sideways. You need to be able to talk and deal with everyone coming from everywhere, and you need to be able to understand their point of view and their pain points. Because if you're not understanding that, okay, procurement are saying, look, we have this budget, I've been given this budget from on high, and I can't do this. I can't do the renewable tariff because it's more expensive than the regular one. That's fine. But what about carbon tax? What about the future that it's going to cost you? What about where, you're going to have to make a line in the sand that, like, if we commit to this, when CSRD comes in a year's time and we have to say that we didn't pick renewable energy, you've already just increased the potential for having to report and say, yeah, okay, so we really didn't tick that box. That was an easy win. So it's about informing and talking to people. It's about understanding where they're coming from. And then lastly, and I think this is super important, it's to be stubbornly optimistic. Now, certainly from an in development goal point of view, we talk about just optimism and being open and being able to really be positive in these very negative times and situation, but I just added in stubborn because generally I am. And also I think that it's so important that we just dig our heels in and say, okay, I refuse to let the negative get me down. So I'll give you a story, right? So recently I was looking up, somebody's talking about flying, and I was saying, okay, well, look, it's not unheard of going from Ireland to the UK. Let's just say it's not an easy journey to do by train. It takes you maybe door to door. If you're near to one of the regional airports, you can get there in like maybe 4 hours. If you take the train, it's probably going to take you 12 or 13. It's probably going to take you quite a while to get where you want to be. And so for some people, that doesn't make sense, right? You might want to fly into London, particularly. I don't know if anyone's seen a recent infographic of all the flights going into Heathrow and coming out of Heathrow, and shocking. Just like, yeah, we knew it was a big hub, but my God, when you see it, it makes a difference. And so people are saying it's too difficult. Why would I do that? So there are two ways to look at that, right? One is to say, okay, The difficulty there is you're time constrained. But then it's like, okay, do you need to fly to London every week? Can you go once every month? Do you need to go every other day for a meeting? Can you think about how actually you could reinvent that? And that requires systems thinking. It requires thinking about things, a little bit differently. Or like the recent training for B Corp leaders, of which I am one, the guys from Amsterdam came all the way to Ireland on the train. They went through London. It took them the best part of a day, but they decided that for them, they could work on the train. It didn't really matter. It was just like another working day, except actually you're looking at rolling English and Irish countryside. And so they made that decision because they realized that actually it's still my working day. I'd still be sitting, like I am at the moment behind my computer, but I'm making that choice that actually that's the kind of leadership we want to provide. And that's what we're saying. We're going to stick to that. And we're going to do it. So being stubbornly optimistic about the future is key, and also stubbornly optimistic about how people can, overcome the challenges that we face. So great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. Fabulous Steve Jobs. So this is where we want to look at what we can do as a group collaboratively. So when we look at the key kind of features of what we need to have, we've looked at most of them now, but collaboration is absolutely the key. Like, we cannot surmount the plastics issue just one person. I can't solve the plastics crisis, right? I really can't. Okay. But I can work with RAP. I can work with different companies. I can help with global cleanups, but I can look at, okay, these companies are using plastic. Can they use recycled plastic? Can we stop using plastic altogether? Do we need a compostable alternative? What can we do to make this a much better option within the business? You can look at withdrawing plastic. There's so many different things, but I can't do that. I need to work with everybody else collaboratively. So when we think about collaboration, there are a few things that we need to think about. And this is so true. I don't know if anybody on the call, presuming you're already all sustainability minded people for sure, is that at sustainability events or at any event, what you find is the sustainability people seek each other out, right? We just naturally gravitate towards that other person that shares our values. And we make a beeline for them to like talk about, okay, how you getting on? How's business? What challenges are you facing? And I don't see this in many other businesses. Normally, if you're in a room full of people who are competitors, essentially, they avoid each other like the plague, or they might talk to each other, but it's not a very in-depth discussion, let's just say. So we need to bring that collaborative field to bear when we're thinking about sustainability leadership. So the first thing is opportunity. So the opportunity to collaborate is absolutely everywhere. And indeed, like, I don't know if you can quite see it, probably can't, but number SDG 17 is partnerships for the goals. And it's all about collaboration. So you see this with the supermarkets who realize that they can't solve the plastics problem by themselves. They need to get together with RAP in the UK. They need to get together with each other to improve their purchasing power, to improve like their who they're working with, and the scientists and the thinkers. It's not something that even they, as one massive supermarket, can do by themselves. Although I believe Walkers have had a good go at it with their crisps. So we're looking forward to seeing what the packaging solution is going to be there. But it's so key to look at that as a key point when you're thinking about sustainability leadership. If you think about collaboration and then opportunity, So the opportunity to work with people, the opportunity to create something that heretofore you might have been competitors on, but actually collaboratively, we can go further, faster together. And then the second thing on that is inclusivity mindset. And we looked at that right at the beginning with equity, but I really do think that we need not just equity when it comes to race, gender, all those. We need neurodivergent people. We need people who think about problems and things completely different to ourselves, because they might see an opportunity to collaborate and to work together that I haven't. They might see a way of working or a potential opportunity in business that I haven't seen. So if we think about working with neurodivergent people, as well as, it's like biodiversity, and we'll take Mother Nature here, right? The ecosystem of biodiversity isn't monoculture. It isn't crop after crop after crop after crop. It's all the interwoven web of Mother Nature, right? It's the insects, it's the mycorrhizal fungi, it's the branches of the trees, it's the leaves, it's the stems, it's the animals, it's everything. And when you lose a keystone species, things tend to crumble. So we need to think about inclusivity, and that's something that I'm really passionate about. I really think that we need to bring that to bear in any decision making, and certainly with anything that we do in terms of business and how we go about business. And then the last thing I just want to touch on is trust. So the Edelman Trust Barometer, I love this every year. It's so important to look at, like, who do we trust? And when it comes to sustainability, right, you can look at who we trust as David Attenborough, Jane Goodall. We trust those people that have been around for a very long time, have proven to us that they know how to save the world. The next people that we trust are our friends and our next door neighbors, because they're around us all the time. They're in our, they're the group of people that we associate with. And I think I can't remember the quote, but it's like, you know what I mean? Your mindset is around the same, is around the 5 people that you associate with most, or something like that. That's how you think. So if you're thinking the same linear way, you need to get out and you need to meet new people, and you need to elevate that so that you start thinking about who you can trust, who's going to really bring things on for you. And think about that from a selfish point of view, because if you're thinking about these things differently, you're going to have that impact on other people as well. So I'm not doing too badly for time, but I just want to kind of get close to wrapping up in a few minutes. So collaboration, think about opportunity, inclusive mindset, and trust, because who we trust right now, with all of the geopolitical situation that we have, is so key. So I'm going to say, don't trust social media, but I think we know that. But, trust your gut when it comes to these things, and trust your value system. Because if you're sustainability minded, we need more of that. So a takeaway tip, and something that we will hopefully explore in the masterclass. Is your decision making regenerative or extractive? So if you're a leader and you have a decision coming up that you need to make, and let's just say it's the renewable energy or not, does this action create more life or reduce it? Does it heal the future, or does it steal the future? Does it enhance human well-being or diminish it? Does it prevent disease or profit from it? Does it create livelihoods or destroy them? Does it destroy land or restore it? Does it increase global warming or decrease it? Does it serve human needs or manufacture human wants? Does it reduce poverty or expand it? Does it provide fundamental human rights or deny them? Does it provide workers with dignity or demean them? So In short, is it the activity that you want? Is it extractive or regenerative? So on that note, I have two suggestions for you in terms of homework and reading. They are Regenerative Leadership, Giles Hutchins and Laura Storm. This is like, if you haven't read this, great book. Definitely go read it. And then Paul Hawken, Regeneration, Ending the Climate Crisis in One Generation. That's our challenge. That's what we have to try and achieve. So I suggest you try and have at least one of these books and listen to them. And finally, the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. That great quote by Robert Swan. And it's so true. So I think with leadership, the first thing to do is to step up and to step forward. So that's it. How did I do, Alex? Have we got time for questions?
Well, first, I thought you did great, and we'll always have time for questions. I'm not seeing any at the moment, but yeah, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Sarah, for coming in, and for the extremely informative and insightful session on sustainability leadership. It is beyond doubt that sustainability requires strong leadership, and leaders must possess a clear vision of a stable future and prioritize long-term benefits over short-term gains. All right. So while we wait for a few questions to roll in, I just want to say you mentioned that trust is important for collaborative purposes. What are some key actions on the part of senior management team that you can instill trust within the employees and other stakeholders?
Yeah, I think when it comes to these things in terms of like, are you doing proper reviews? Are you doing 360 feedback? Are you actually doing quarterly meetings? Are you updating your staff? Like, I think the first thing in terms of trust when it comes to your internal team is definitely to keep them updated and to keep them in the loop. And this is something that we see with the B Corp framework, right? Is that set into the governance side of things is that you will have like external people to be held accountable to, so that your board has, at least like a non-exec, those kind of things. But then also that you are being as clear and as open as you can with your staff. So it's about looking at, okay, do we let them know, quarterly briefings, where's the profit, where are our costs, what are we doing, can we help people, what training coming up, what do people need, all of those kind of things I think has to be very much a two-way situation. And that tends to, at first sometimes I think it can sort of breed more questions, but we have to have that, certainly from that coaching point of view, that psychological safety for people to be able to bring their questions and to feel like they are part of the team and that we're all going towards the one mission and the one goal.
Sure, it's a great answer. But like on that, like how can like organizations like cultivate a long-term vision for sustainability that also aligns with their immediate business goals and strategies?
Yeah, so that's a great one. And I think the first thing is to go back to your mission statement. So does your mission statement include a line about saving the planet? Do you have something in there that says we're going to continue to do business but do no harm? Or does it say we're going to be doing positive things about the future, about people? So it doesn't always have to be about the environment, right? It can also be about people. So what are we doing in terms of what does our product do? Are we really, does it enlarge or diminish, right? Does this opportunity enlarge or diminish? But if you have that in your mission statement DNA, I think that tends to help because it translates into strategy and then it pulls in sustainability right from the get-go, rather than it being like this sort of GDPR add-on, right? Like, oh, panic, it's GDPR, we need to do this, tick box. That's not going to help you. That's not going to like do the magic thing of increasing profit that everyone's always talking about when it comes to sustainability. It has to be embedded. And I think if you go back to the mission and vision and make sure it's embedded there, again, something that most B Corps do, then that will really help for it to kind of spread throughout the rest of your decision making.
That's a good point. Are there any sort of like common barriers to sustainability innovation? And like, because I feel like that's something that we need to get our senior leadership to be able to overcome that. What would be some sort of common barriers that you would have experienced?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think most CEOs are driven by risk and cost, right? Risk and money. So risk and money. So that's generally it, right? That's how they're focused. And so if you want something done, play to those two things, right? Is it going to mitigate risk? Is it going to increase the bottom line? Where can I play into that? So if you're looking at, let's say it's an array of solar panels, or it's something to do, I don't know, maybe it's buying a biodigester or something like that, big capital cost, right? Potentially for a business. And you're thinking, okay, so maybe we're going to save this much on our bins in terms of, if we have a biodigester, but it's going to take 10 years to pay back, right? And so I know the CEO is only here for the next 4 years. So is it really going to be on his radar? I'm going to say no, right? But if you say to him, well, the risk is you're the first person to be affected by the CSRD that's coming down the tracks, like within your tenure, we're going to have to report. And if we're going to have to say that we put all this waste out and we're not part of the circular economy and we haven't been able to give the local allotments or our own people some amazing gold that's created by the biodigester to grow stuff in, and we haven't been able to amplify all this as the community, we haven't been able to actually give back to the community who actually buy from us. These are the people that, let's say it's a hotel or whatever, these are the people that come to us all the time. Then we're going to lose business. So, I mean, it really does come down to that. I think we've sort of, I'd love to say it's because, you want to go to your altruistic side, but really, yeah, if you think of risk and money, that's how they make the decisions. And if you can align with one of those two, you'd probably do much better.
Fair enough. All right, thank you, Sarah. I've just seen a question here now. So, how can individual contributors who are not part of the leadership influence C-levels?
Yeah, this is something I get from green teams all the time, right? Because this is a lot of the work that we do is with green teams. So it's be the change you want to see. So if you think you are cycling to work, you're doing all the things, and yet, here is the company aligning with fossil fuels or churning out all these things, and it's not going the way you want, I'm just going to be honest. Either A, leave and find a company that does want to do and take if you've got a lot to give when it comes to that, so many people are leaving companies that don't align with their values. If you want to try, if you see that, you're in an environment where actually you really enjoy it, you really do like what they're doing, it's something that you do want to stay and work with, then you have to look at, okay, what is in it for them? So what's in it for them if you help them avoid, potential costs in terms of carbon tax? What's in it for them if you make them look good in front of the CEO or the next hierarchy? What's in it for them if you can prove that over the long term, sustainability is going to make them money? Think about it as you would, right? Think about it like, what's in it for me? What's in it for me if I do all of these things? And if you are sustainability minded, you're generally a bit more, altruistic, and you have different values to those people. But think about it from the what's in it for them, almost the same as your point earlier there, Alex, about if you're trying to get the management team to do something that you want. It's definitely thinking about it from the other person's point of view, and then also thinking about what you can do within maybe your green team. And I would say become the member of the green team or set one up is the next plane, because that is definitely a very visible thing often within a business, and it's becoming more so because certainly people want to be seen to be doing the right thing.
Couldn't agree more. All right, Sarah, I've got another question for you now. There's a few of them coming in. Um,
Hmm.
how can senior leaders ensure that they continue to maintain high inclusivity levels within their organization?
Okay, yeah, this is, I mean, it's
Golden
very
question.
easy. Yeah, yeah, very easy to do that on paper, isn't it? Like to have all the processes and procedures in place, but it is extremely difficult to live it. Um, and I am no DEI expert, I have to tell you. But what I do know is that if you put people, so this is a really good point that I picked up from uh, one of the guys from Tony Chocolonely, right? Oh no, not Tony. It was Innocent Smoothies. So they're a B Corp, and they were at a recent B Corp event, and they shared that at every meeting they have two empty chairs. One chair represents the planet and Mother Nature, and the other chair represents people. So people that are not in the meeting and are not present. So that's your kind of equity piece, is to be thinking about those people that aren't at the table all the time. And I just thought that was a really nice way of bringing that into a meeting situation, so that as you go round the table asking for everybody's opinion, etc., you then have that underrepresented voice. And obviously somebody chooses to speak on their behalf, but that you think about it at every stage and at every decision making situation. I think was a nice way to try and embed it into day-to-day practices.
All right, perfect. Listen, Sarah, I think we might wrap it up there. It's about to turn a quarter to. So listen, I want to thank you so much for your time. Um, so I also want to thank everyone here. So thanks so much for everyone who joined. And a huge thank you to Sarah for her insights today. I'm sure everyone took great value from today's session. So if you wish to learn more about sustainability, do visit our website and explore our diploma in business sustainability, a course designed to provide you with the right tools and templates to get you started on your path to sustainability business practices. We will also be holding many more such webinars on issues of topical sustainability importance. So do keep your eye out on our website for more details on them. So once again, everyone, thank you so much and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks very much. Lovely to be here, Alex. Thanks.
Cheers.